What if a city's very soul was up for grabs? Not in the distant past, but right now, on its streets, in its cafes, written in fresh paint on its ancient walls. Forget the brochure that tells you about friendly people and unique dances. We're going to a place where a single city block can feel like a geopolitical chessboard, where the ghosts of a forgotten empire refuse to die, and where the welcome you receive might depend entirely on the language you speak. This is a city whose population has exploded in a matter of months, whose very identity is being contested in real time between its long-time residents, its powerful neighbor, and the refugees of a war that feels terrifyingly familiar. This isn't a vacation. This is an investigation into the heart of a nation fighting to define itself against the crushing weight of history and the relentless pressures of the present. This is Tbilisi, and we're about to peel back its layers one by one. Walk through Tbilisi today, and you'll feel a palpable tension. It's not one of overt hostility, but of a story being written with two different inks on two different flags. On one side, you have the flag of Georgia, the brilliant white and red of the five-cross flag, a potent symbol of medieval strength and hard, one modern sovereignty. And right next to it, on nearly every balcony, hanging from every official building, draped over shoulders during evening strolls, is the blue and yellow of Ukraine. This isn't just empty solidarity, it's a national projection of a deeply felt, deeply personal trauma. The casual observation that you can easily spot the recent influx of Russians and Ukrainians. Blonde, colorful-eyed people speaking Russian loudly misses the seismic shift happening underneath. Tbilisi's population, officially around 1.2 million, is unofficially estimated to be pushing 2 million. This isn't just migration, it's a societal earthquake, and the aftershocks are visible everywhere. Around Liberty Square, the symbolic heart of the capital, the walls scream. They are an open-air gallery of defiance, covered in graffiti not by local youths, but by Ukrainian refugees' stark, angry slogans against Putin, visceral imagery of war, and the simple, desperate plea for the world not to look away. The Georgian government allows these protests, flanked by a heavy police presence. It's a delicate, dangerous dance. Why? Because Georgia, a nation that itself lost 20% of its internationally recognized territory to Russian occupation following the war in 2008, is now the reluctant host to tens of thousands of citizens from the very country it views as an aggressor, alongside tens of thousands of refugees fleeing that same aggression. The city has become an unwilling stage for a conflict that mirrors its own unhealed wounds. In neighborhoods like Vake and Sabartalo, rents have skyrocketed, driven up by the influx of affluent Russian émigrés, creating a silent friction with locals being priced out of their own city. You see Russian language signs popping up for new businesses, creating small bubbles where you can live your entire day without speaking a word of Georgian. For a nation that fought for centuries to preserve its unique language and culture against Russification, this is more than just an economic inconvenience. It's an existential threat. To understand modern Georgia, you must first understand that the war in Ukraine is not, for them, a foreign conflict on a television screen. It is a terrifyingly familiar echo, playing out on their own streets, in their own economy, and in their own national psyche. Before you can understand the soul of a place, you must learn to read its streets. And Tbilisi's streets are a masterclass in organized chaos, a living museum full of clues that tell a deeper story than any guidebook. You'll notice the cars, The surprising number of Mercedes is a clear status symbol in a country where the average monthly income hovers around 500 lari, or roughly $900. But look closer. You'll see something bizarre. 1 in every 10 cars seems to be missing a bumper. At first, you think it's a coincidence. Then you realize it's a pattern. The simple explanation is that repairs are expensive. A new bumper for a German car can cost half a month's salary. But the deeper truth is about priorities. In a country that has endured centuries of turmoil, invasion, and economic collapse, surface-level cosmetics are an unaffordable luxury. A car is a tool to get from A to B, not a pristine object to be worshipped. Function over form, survival over style. It's a quiet, rolling testament to a deep-seated economic pragmatism. Look even closer at the traffic, and you'll spot another layer of this automotive anarchy. You'll see cars with the steering wheel on the left, as is standard, right next to cars with the steering wheel on the right. Both are perfectly legal. This is a visible legacy of the chaotic 90s, when Georgia became a massive import hub for cheap, second-hand cars from Japan and the UK. It's another example of a system that values access and affordability over standardization. The driving style itself is a language. It can seem aggressive, even reckless, with cars weaving through lanes that seem more like suggestions than rules. But it's a shared understanding, a high-speed negotiation born from decades of less regulated roads. Then there's the taxi situation. The warning is stark: there are no meters, so you must bargain for your life. This is true, but it's not just a tourist scam. It's a window into a post-Soviet economy still grappling with formalization. For decades, everything ran on personal agreements, on favors, on a system of trust and hustle. The taxi without a meter is a relic of that world, a world where your negotiating skill mattered more than any rule. Today, that old world clashes directly with the new. Ride-sharing apps like Bolt and Yandex are ubiquitous and offer a fixed, fair price. The contrast between hailing a cab on the street, entering a verbal contract based on intuition, and ordering one on an app is the contrast between two Georgias, coexisting uneasily on the same asphalt. And finally, to truly understand the city's complex character, you must go underground. The Tbilisi metro is a marvel of Soviet engineering. Its stations are cavernous, deep, and often adorned with socialist, realist art. Built during the Cold War, it doubles as a nuclear bunker, plunging you deep into the earth. Riding the impossibly fast, long escalators feels like a descent into another era. Yet, it is the most efficient, reliable, and cheapest way to cross the city. It is a perfectly functioning piece of the past, a stark contrast to the beautiful, unpredictable chaos on the surface. If the streets are Georgia's chaotic mind, then its food is its magnificent, generous, and fiercely proud heart. This is perhaps the greatest omission of any superficial glance at the country. To say Georgia has unique cuisine is like saying Italy has some nice pasta. It's a profound understatement that borders on insult. Here, food is not fuel. It is communion. It is history. It is identity. Forget what you think you know about bread and cheese. Witness the Ajaruli Khachapuri. It arrives at your table shaped like a boat, a sea of molten, salty Solguni cheese in its center, with a raw egg yolk dropped in at the last second. A shining sun over a cheesy ocean. You are instructed to stir the egg and a pat of butter into the cheese. Then tear off the crusty, perfectly baked edges of the boat and dip them into the glorious, gooey center. It's not a meal, it's an interactive, decadent ritual that leaves you in a state of blissful disbelief. Then there is khinkali. These are not just dumplings. They are magnificent, pleated parcels of spiced meat, or mushroom, or potato, swimming in a rich, savory broth, all encased in a perfectly chewy dough. There is a specific, non-negotiable way to eat them. You hold them by the top knot of dough, the kudi, or hat. Turn them upside down, and take a small bite from the side to slurp out the hot broth before devouring the rest. The knot is left on the plate, a proud tombstone marking how many you've conquered. To use a fork is a cardinal sin. But the Georgian table is an endless landscape. There is mintsvati, skewers of succulent, perfectly grilled meat, often cooked over grapevines, imparting a unique, sweet smoke. There are endless variations of kali, vibrant vegetable pâtés made from spinach, beets, or leeks, all bound together with a rich, creamy walnut paste. Walnuts are the secret weapon of Georgian cuisine, appearing in everything from the creamy chicken stew satsivi to the tangy, garlic-infused sauce bhaji. And no meal is complete without a bottle of timali, a sour plum sauce that cuts through the richness of the meat with a sharp, fruity tang. But the food itself is only one part of the equation. The other is wine. Georgia is not just a wine country, it is unequivocally the cradle of wine. Archaeological evidence shows that Georgians have been making wine here for 8,000 years. 8,000 years. Forget French oak barrels. The ancient Georgian method, still practiced today and protected as a UNESCO intangible cultural heritage, is to ferment grapes in massive clay amphorae called cuivre, which are buried underground. This method, which involves leaving the grape skins, stems, and seeds in contact with the juice, produces wines of incredible complexity and texture, especially the famed amber, or orange, wines, with over 500 indigenous grape varieties. A stunning library of viticulture compared to the handful that dominate the global market. Georgia is a living, breathing museum of wine. All of this, the food, the wine, the history, culminates in the supra. A supra is a traditional Georgian feast, but calling it a feast is insufficient. It is a marathon of eating, drinking, and toasting, orchestrated by a toastmaster, the tamada. The tamada is a revered figure, a combination of poet, philosopher, and conductor who leads the table through a series of at least a dozen elaborate, heartfelt toasts. To God, to Georgia, to peace, to parents, to women, to the departed, to the future. A supra can last for hours, weaving a tapestry of community and shared emotion. To be invited to a supra is to be welcomed not just into a home, but into the very soul of Georgian culture, a culture built not on transactions, but on overwhelming, structured, and non-negotiable hospitality. Why is this culture of food, wine, and dance so fiercely, almost defiantly, preserved? Why do young people still perform the explosive, athletic Caucasian dances on the streets with such raw pride? Because for most of its history, Georgia's culture was all it had left. Its national flag tells the story. The 5 red crosses on a white background are said to represent the 5 holy wounds of Christ. Georgia was one of the very first nations to adopt Christianity as a state religion in the 4th century. This faith became the bedrock of its identity, an anchor in a roiling sea of conquering empires. The story of Georgia is not one of a small, quaint nation. It is the story of a great kingdom, forged from the ancient lands of Caucasus and Iberia. The very land of the Golden Fleece from Greek mythology. It experienced a spectacular golden age in the 12th and 13th centuries under visionary rulers like King David the Builder and the legendary Queen Tamar, when its influence stretched across the Caucasus. Their legacy is etched in stone across the country. You feel it most profoundly in Mitsketa, the ancient capital just a short drive from Tbilisi. Here stands Svetitskovoly Cathedral, a place of immense spiritual importance, believed to be the burial site of Christ's mantle. To stand within its towering, somber walls is to feel the weight of 17 centuries of faith. Perched on a hill overlooking the city and the confluence of two rivers is the Javari Monastery, a 6th century masterpiece of early Georgian architecture, a perfect synthesis of form and landscape. But this golden age was followed by centuries of darkness. Georgia's strategic location made it a perpetual battleground for its powerful neighbors, the Persians, the Ottomans, and ultimately, the Russian Empire. The nation was fractured, invaded, and subjugated time and again. Yet, through it all, they clung to three pillars: their faith, their language, and their land. They preserved their unique alphabet, one of only 14 independent scripts in the world. A beautiful, flowing script that looks like no other. They preserved their identity in their epic poems, their polyphonic songs, their explosive dances, and in the sacred rituals of the Supra. The 20th century brought the most suffocating shadow of all: the Soviet Union. After a brief, 3-year taste of independence, Georgia was forcibly annexed in 1921. For 70 years, its national identity was systematically suppressed. Its churches were closed, its aristocracy was executed, and its history was rewritten. The independence Georgia finally reclaimed on April 9, 1991, was not a simple political transition. It was the resurrection of a nation that had refused to die. That flag, resurrected from its medieval past, is not just a piece of cloth. It is a declaration, a scar, and a promise. But the collapse of the Soviet Union did not bring lasting peace. It simply uncorked new conflicts, reopening old wounds that fester to this day. The original video mentions the autonomous republics of Abkhazia and South Ossetia as having problems. This is a dangerously soft description that obscures a brutal reality. From the Georgian perspective, and that of most of the international community, these are not republics with problems. They are sovereign Georgian territories under illegal Russian military occupation. Following brutal wars in the early 1990s and a final, decisive invasion by Russia in 2008, these regions were ethnically cleansed of hundreds of thousands of Georgians, and now exist as heavily militarized Russian protectorates. These are not abstract political issues. They are open, bleeding wounds in the national consciousness. Every Georgian family seems to have a connection to these lands. There are hundreds of thousands of internally displaced persons, refugees in their own country, who can see their ancestral homes across a border of barbed wire, but can never return. This is made even more agonizing by the process of borderization, or what locals call the creeping occupation. Periodically, Russian troops will move the barbed wire fences further into Georgian-controlled territory, sometimes overnight, swallowing up a family's farmland, a community's graveyard, or even cutting a house in two. It's a slow, psychological torture designed to demonstrate that the border is wherever Russia says it is. This is the crucial context that explains everything about modern Georgia's psyche. It explains the desperate, existential push to join the European Union and NATO. It explains the immediate and visceral empathy for Ukraine. When Georgians see Russian tanks in Kherson, they remember Russian tanks in Gori. When they hear of occupied territories, they think of Abkhazia. The anti-Putin graffiti on the walls of Tbilisi is not just political commentary. It is a collective roar of never again. Even as they live with the constant fear that it could happen again tomorrow. The country lives with a ghost on its northern border, a constant, low-grade dread that defines its foreign policy, its national spirit, and the nervous, defiant energy you can feel pulsing just beneath the surface of its capital. So, how does a small nation, scarred by history and living in the shadow of a powerful adversary, build a future? It takes a gamble. Literally, walk through Tbilisi, or the Black Sea resort city of Batumi, and you are blinded by the neon glare of casinos. These are not small, smoky backrooms. They are lavish, sprawling complexes that rival those in the Balkans or even Las Vegas. Georgia has strategically positioned itself as a regional hub for gambling, attracting high rollers from Turkey, Iran, Israel, and the Gulf states, countries where gambling is often illegal or restricted, with incredibly low taxes on winnings. This, along with a massive post-pandemic boom in tourism, is the high-octane engine of the new Georgian economy. The skyline of Tbilisi is a testament to this gamble. Cranes are everywhere, a metallic forest erecting glass, and steel towers next to centuries-old churches. The stunning ultra-modern Bridge of Peace, an undulating wave of glass and light, arches over the Kura River, a stone's throw from the crumbling, intricately carved wooden balconies and ancient sulfur bathhouses of the old town. It's a visual representation of the core tension in Georgia, today the delicate and sometimes clumsy dance between preservation and hyper-progress. But this economic model is diversifying. Beyond the casinos and the endless stream of tourists, a new, quieter revolution is taking place. Georgia has enacted some of the most liberal tax policies in the world for small businesses and individual entrepreneurs, turning the country, and especially Tbilisi, into a surprising hub for digital nomads, freelancers, and IT startups. It's a parallel economy, one that runs on laptops in trendy cafes, far from the spin of the roulette wheel. The nation is also leaning back on one of its oldest strengths, agriculture. Its unique hazelnuts, fruits, and of course, its wine, are increasingly finding their way to international markets. But this rapid development comes at a cost. In historic neighborhoods like Saloniki, gentrification is rampant. Old Tbilisi families are being priced out as their ancestral homes are converted into boutique hotels and Airbnbs. There are fierce debates about the environmental impact of new hydropower projects and the risk of sacrificing the country's pristine natural beauty for short-term gain. Can a nation built on 8,000 years of tradition maintain its soul when its economy is increasingly dependent on the transient, transactional nature of tourism, technology, and gambling? Can the profound, non-commercial hospitality of the Supra survive in a world of online reviews and budget airlines? This is the central question Georgia is facing. It is a nation that has masterfully preserved its past, is grappling with a turbulent present, and is now gambling everything on an uncertain future. Tbilisi is not a city you simply visit. It's a city you experience and try to decipher. It is more than just a place on a map between Europe and Asia. It is a living, breathing lesson in resilience, a beautiful, chaotic, and fiercely proud testament to a people who have refused to be erased. Its streets are a history book written in crumbling balconies and modern graffiti. Its feasts are a cultural embrace that can last for hours. And its political anxieties are a stark reminder of the fragile nature of freedom. This is the story of a nation constantly negotiating with its ghosts, even as it boldly builds a new skyline. What part of Georgia's complex story surprised you the most? The 8,000-year history of wine, the painful reality of the creeping occupation, or the modern paradox of its economy? Share your thoughts or questions in the comments below. If this journey opened up a new perspective for you, share this video with a fellow traveler who loves to go deeper than the surface. And for more deep dives into the world's most fascinating and misunderstood places, make sure to subscribe. Until next time, keep exploring.